it won't go live. I don't know what the deal is. It gives me shit every time. Now it's live.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lattie Inc. This has been brought to you by FMG and Lattie Inc. Lattie Inc. Let's go. Pencil hits paper, paper hits pen. The legend is growing, now the story begins. Out New Orleans with speed like Wally West. You read about the others, now come read the best. You can find him in Metairie at BSI, saving up his lunch money, dancing for fries. Now he likes his media underground. When he steps in the shop, can't hear sound. While others sit around like watchmen, he coming like Alan Moore for the top 10. Stop being nervous, come take a chance. Laddie just brings that renaissance. His heart stays with the comic books. Artwork is unique, not the common look. So when you call Laddie, he know what you're thinking. Big ideas brings big ink in. Laddie Inc. performs fire. He never gets tired. This is desire. With this, he will retire. Artwork is hotter. Laddie Inc. performs fire. Laddie Inc. perfects fire. He never gets tired. This is desire. With this, he will retire. Artwork is hotter. Laddie Inc. perfects fire.
Okay. So, yeah, dude. No, I did. I was telling my buddy about it a minute ago. Dude, some dude, I used to do art for this guy. This is way back in the day. I got plenty of funny. He was really, really funny, really, really funny dude down in New Orleans. And, like a very New Orleans black guy. And, he was just, like, really, really funny. And, his nephew was like a rapper, and he had like a mixtape out. Again, this is like early 2000s, right? So this is like back in the day. And he had a mixtape out, and we were chilling at Burger King one day, and we were just like bullshitting or whatever, and they wanted me to do the artwork for the cover. I'll try to pull it up. Hold up. Let me see if I got it on here somewhere. It might be on my other hard drive though. But, yeah, ended up doing the artwork for him. His name was Verse 16, like sick, like he's sick. And, dude, bro, I mean, that was my boy. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know where he went. But, my buddy Mike Taylor, he did this book called The Funchies. And, dude, we were chill, bro. I'm like Clav, dude. Like, we were just chilling at, because that's where we'd meet up. We'd meet up at Burger King in New Orleans. And this isn't funny, but like I'll never forget, dude. We were in this. It's not funny. Hold up, let me fiddle with the camera. It's fine. God, we were chilling in there one day, and I remember we were talking. We would just meet. Like, dude, some people just want to meet all the time and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, there's. I'm not one of those people. Some people just want to like hang out. And dude, again, this guy was funny to go meet up with, so I didn't mind. And we'd always meet at Burger King. Out on, shit. I don't know. It was out by Delgado. It was right across the street from Delgado by Bud's Broiler. And, I mean, dude, you'd get a lot of college people that would come in there sometimes. But then I remember we were sitting there one day and like some dude came in there and started like digging for food in the garbage, and he was just like, ah, shit. And he would tell me stories, bro. He would tell me crazy stories about I love, dude. I'm done like with the whatever, but with the pretenses. But he would tell me stories about how God, what's the dude's dude? The dude that does like Medea, whatever that guy is. He would tell me stories about like Medea and how like Medea was gay and stuff like that. Like he knew Tyler Perry. I knew him from another guy that I used to work with. So there's a movie back in the day called I'm 'Bout It the Movie. And the guy that wrote and directed it with Master P, Armando's boy, is this, I love him. Haven't talked to him in a long time. Thought about him the other day. Moon Jones gave me my first drawing job. First person that ever paid me to like for real draw something. His name's Moon Jones. I hope he's doing well. Coach Moon. And we did a book called Big Head and Cornrow. Dude, you ain't about nothing, bruh. You ain't about nothing, Wardy. And so there's a movie called I'm 'Bout It the Movie, and he's Officer Friendly in it. And so I used to meet him. I know, I saw that. They let Master P go from UNO. And so this is like right out of college. God, I don't even know how I met him. It might have been, this is going to date like the whole process. Might have been like Craigslist days or something like that. It was forever ago, dude. And God, man, I don't know if this is pre-Katrina. It had to be, because it was right out of college. And I did a book for him called Big Head and Cornrow, and I have a copy of it somewhere. And yeah, dude, it was cool. It was these like superhero time traveler like little kids, Big Head and Cornrow. And then I guess he knew Mike Taylor, and then Mike would hit me up, and Moon went to California. And I don't know what he's doing now. I don't know if he's coaching basketball or whatever. He was a tall dude. And he would tell me some stories about like Master P and all them. He'd tell me I have one copy of Big Head and Cornrow, and I don't know where it's at. I have the files on my computer. I can look them up. I'm gonna have to put in another hard. If I put in this other hard drive, I might lose like all my graphics because they're coming up. I do have. I have the whatever. And dude, it was funny because like back in the day, I should redraw them. I might text them and redraw them, or I might just redraw them and tell them I did it. I'm looking on my shelf to see if I have a copy of the book. I do have it somewhere. So I did that so the first things I ever did was Big Head and Cornrow with Moon Jones. I really am. I'm looking around. I don't want to like, it's going to be, my waist is going to be all up in the camera. I'm trying to see if I can see from here. And then I did the Funchies, Mike Taylor and the Funchies, and then we did the thing with Verse 16, who was his nephew, and bro, this is all, this is like pre and post Katrina, because if I was living in New Orleans, it's post Katrina. But I was doing, so I would meet Moon at Starbucks, man, we'd meet all the time, and this is like early days. Again, dude, this is early days. I'm right out of college, and like, anime isn't what it is now, but like I remember he got me like Akira. Just a good dude. He was just a good dude. I don't know how he knew Master P and all them. And we didn't talk about it that much. We would just talk about like I'm slow as it is. I'm accepting that about myself. Like I'm slow at getting stuff done or whatever. And Lattie origin story. This is the Lattie origin story. This is me right out of college. So, dude, I've got New Orleans roots, man, like real deal. I tell you what, dude, let me go grab, because I was gonna go a completely different route today, and it might end up going Big Head and Cornrow. I know I have a book. I'm just trying to remember where I put it, like where the book is. Because what happened was, this is also, I don't know if I've ever seen some of those pages, but I remember seeing old pages where the story was based in New Orleans, and I remember seeing shots of Jackson Square. No, I had a whole different agenda today, and y'all are taking me down a whole different path. Hold on. Let me go. I just need to get a cord so I can run the thumb drive, and then I'll pull up some of this shit. I'm like 2 seconds.
The Transformers will return after these messages.
Gun shooting. Car action. ストリートファイト。一つのソフトに3つのアクションゲームが凝縮されたトリプルハードアクションゲーム。
Actually, never mind. The cord's plugged in because I'm charging my phone. So it's right here. Hold up. But yeah, dude, that was, yeah, the stuff in Jackson Square, that was something totally different, dude. That was a book. So I used to go out in the quarter a bunch, back in the day. And, I lived out there. I not in the quarter, but I lived off, down the street from the museum, down by Esplanade. And even before that, dude, I would go out in the quarter a ton. And, yeah, man, it was just, dude, it was just cool times. And I had a story. So I was also, like, big into Ghost. I was big into Ghost and shit like that. And, loved it. I'm not as much anymore, but, loved it. And New Orleans is such, like, a haunted city and has, like, so much history and stuff. So I would go out there and I would just, like, you know, you'd hear about, like, New Orleans ghost stories and I'd go and check out the places. I was upset. I loved it, dude. I'd love going to the Myrtles, all that kind of stuff. And, here, hold up. Total deviation of where we were going today. I do have some chicken strips. Y'all can check this out while I'm waiting. I was working on that yesterday. And then, and there was a book. So there's a great story. Excuse me. I don't hate ghosts. I hate dinosaurs. And, there was a story. Let me turn it this way so y'all can see. They got better at the bottom. I was getting better at it. I'm thinking about doing more like chicken strip stuff. And there was a story, dude. There's a crazy story. It's a ghost story about Lattie, Madame Lattie, and the house is still there. Nicolas Cage owned it at the time. And, dude, she was this wild bitch that was, her and her husband would, like, take in, like, slaves and kids and shit like that. And they would do, like, experiments on him. They would do, like, these wild experiments. And, like, he was a doctor. And, they would chain him up in the attic, put him in boxes, like dismember him and do like weird stuff to him, and then like sell him to the circus and shit. And nobody knew what was going on, and she would have these big like parties and these big balls and stuff like that. And during the balls, they would be doing weird shit up in the attic. And then she would like, I guess she'd get like soil herself or get all messed up, and she'd have to come out. And she would change dresses. So every time she would be having these parties in the quarter, she would change dresses multiple times. Because she was, you know, whatever, God knows what, up in the attic with the slaves or with children or whatever they were doing. And, eventually one day, so if you go see the house, again, it's still there. It's a very odd house up in the front, and then it turns on to, Charters, Royal, I'll throw Lionel. I got Lionel in here. Hold up, dude. Here, there's Lionel. And so it turns down the street, and there's like a big courtyard, all right? Like all in New Orleans, you got courtyards and shit. And there's a giant, like, beautiful balcony, dude, with like a concrete balcony. And so apparently what was happening was she had a little slave girl messing with her one day, combing her hair, and I guess she was catching knots, or the little slave girl escaped. Something happened, but the chick friggin' lost it, and she was chasing her, and she ran off the balcony and fell down into the courtyard screaming and going nuts. And it basically alerted everybody that something weird was going on there. And apparently the people in New Orleans kind of like turned on her and chased her out of town. So anyway, so then that's what it was. So that the slave girl was one thing. It's been a while. Slave girl was one thing. And then one night, one of the slaves that was chained up in the kitchen started a fire during one of the parties. And when the firemen went in there, they found what was going on up in the attic and stuff like that. And so the townspeople like went nuts and wanted to run her out of town. This is all a true story. And they escaped on a coach one night. It's New Orleans, so I'm sure it was like shady and there was like all kinds of backroom deals and stuff. But they eventually escaped and went out to the North Shore, and supposedly like a witch's coven opened up out there. And so I knew about this story and I was like super interested in it. I wanted to know all about it. And, you know, since I lived there, I would go out there. And eventually there was this guy, Mr. Tommy, that was the curator of the house. It had been an apartment complex at one point, and then, like I said, Nick Cage owned it. And when Nick Cage owned it, he, you could even see, like, they had the Ghost Rider motorcycle up in there, and, like, all the chairs and the tablecloths had, like, skulls on them and stuff. But, like, they weren't allowed to let us in. So, like, we kind of, like, built up their trust. It was Mr. Tommy. I used to smoke cigarettes back then, and he did too. So I'd sit out there and BS with him, and then he had his wife. And, like, eventually they got, like, at least, like, comfortable enough with me and my buddy where they would let us kinda in. You know what I mean? Like, we couldn't really, like, go in, like, but we could go in the garage area, we could go in the courtyard a little bit, like, we could kind of, like, we were, like, flirting with it, like, getting inside the house, because I wanted to go in the house, I wanted to see the attic, because they said the attic, the frame was still there, and there were chains and stuff, like, you could see where they were chaining people up, it was still engraved in the, Dude, I tell people all the time, I tell people on, like, podcasts and stuff, like, I'm trying to do more podcasts, and I'm like, dude, I'm a weapon. Like, you just need to point me. I don't need much. And, dude, I learned this dealing with Texas Trash, I don't know, dude, I probably did have, like, and Patrick, you know, Patrick Daniel down there, you know, he was part of that story, part of that life. Dude, definitely had an interesting life. Definitely had some interesting times. And, probably more than most. But, yeah, dude, ended up, becoming friends with Mr. Tommy and shit. And, I was gonna write a story about it. I had a story written with my buddy Rob called Lattie. And it was gonna be this cool, like, New Orleans ghost story, like, epic tale. And, that was one of the first things I was working on. And so that's what that is. That's what that's from. Lattie, that's what that's from. Let me see if I can find the pages. So, and then eventually what ended up happening, Lattie. Mr. Tommy died. I remember going out there the last time I went out there and, like, talked to him. I can't think of the woman's name. Older couple, and then their children lived, I think their children lived out on the North Shore as well. But they basically, Nick Cage paid them to just live in the house when he wasn't there and just make sure everything, that's legit all they had to do. Like, don't let people in too much. Just a random couple. And the last time we went out there, dude, ran into the old lady, and Mr. Tommy had died. And she was, I remember her telling us, like, oh, man, he believed in y'all, what y'all were doing, y'all's story and stuff like that. Which was kind of crazy. Because, dude, again, I'm telling you about Mike Taylor and Moon Jones and all them dudes. This is very, very early days of my career, and then like this was going on as well, and it's gonna be in Big Boy. Let me pull up the folder, and yeah, dude, he was another just character, bruh. He was a wild dude, and he's just one of. I always like these guys, and maybe I've even adopted it. I always like those guys that you would meet, and look, Patrick's dad was one of them. Like, dude, there'd be these old heads, these old men that you would meet in your life, and they would just be characters, man, and they would just have you cracking up, and you'd just smoke Joes with them, and they'd be bullshitting with you, and this dude, Mr. Tommy, was like that, too. So we would just be out there in the French Quarter, hanging out at this haunted house, taking pictures of it. You know, you gotta be respectful. You don't want to go, like, over the top with it. And he would just be telling us just, like, crazy stories, dude. Like, had us cracking up, like, the wildest stories. So, okay, so I found Big Head and Cornrow. And, I'm trying to find, I'd like to find Lattie real quick before we do it. So, yeah, that was part of the origin story. So, I'm just coming back from SCAD. This is pre and post Katrina, probably a little bit of both. And I would just, here you go, Lattie. Let's see what we got here. Dude, I might have some cool files. Let's see how this looks. All right, let me see if I can get it in here. So this is, and I'd love to, dude. Brian, I appreciate what you were saying, dude. I'm telling you, always angry. That did trip me out earlier, because you know, and Travis would probably back this up. Not everything that like glitters is gold. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a lot different story. Like, it looks cool when you see like Ninja Turtle stuff, or you see like, you know, you got a signing at BSI or something like that. I bet you Travis is sitting there all day, you know, you're just going through it, bro. It's not what you think. Let me see if I can, Lattie cover. All right, so this is, so when I do hear people say stuff like that, it is appreciated, dude. Like, you don't, man, that's a cool dude, David Perez. So it was just kind of cool that he said that, back in the day. Or he said that, whatever, you know. So this is the Lattie cover. So this was gonna be the game plan. And dude, this is all what's that show called? American Horror Story. So this is all before American Horror Story. And so that was gonna be Madame Lattie. That was Delphine Lattie. This was gonna be like her husband. And honestly, I might base it off of the nonsense neighbors that I have right now. Because, dude, I was thinking about it the other day. Like, this monster over there, she's kind of like she's running the show. And he's like the wimpy, like, simpy, like, guy that just does whatever she wants. So I might make them into, like, Lattie. I might base it off of them. Because I was thinking about that earlier. I'm also thinking about how, like, dude, probably stuff that you read and you grew up reading, that probably, like, if you hear about a goblin, if you hear about a vampire, dude, those were probably like real things, like real people. You know what I mean? Like, those are probably based off of people that are very much like goblins or very much like fucking vampires and stuff. Suck the life out of you. So, that's Delphine Lattie in the center. That's gonna be like her weird doctor husband. This was Marie Laveau. So you go down to Marie Laveau's grave and you put the 3 X's on there. You can make a wish. Not recommending it. This is the house that's behind them. And this is on the front door. To this day, that I know of, haven't been there, hadn't been in a while. To this day, they have a one of those like Jacob Marley, and then like the Mickey Mouse cartoon, they had the Jacob Marley thing. They'd knock on it, and it was Goofy's face. They have that knocking thing, and that was the face on it. So that was it. And then the story I was going to tell, or me and my buddy Rob were going to tell, was that this family moved in, and that was going to be the family at the bottom. It was going to be them coming to New Orleans, and they were just going to have to deal with haunted house tropes, all that kind of stuff. So let's see. Let's go to the next image. How do we do this? Can we do it here? All right. And so this was the other page. So this was going to be, man, this is a time capsule too. So this is, you're coming into New Orleans. You got the riverboat. You got the Natchez and stuff like that. St. Louis Cathedral. And it's really not going to be that much far down the way. I watched a replay of the podcast with Buck. YouTube chat versus Twitch chat is like X-Men Blue and X-Men Gold teams. Oh, dude, you switched over too. I didn't notice that. Travis is the only one left over on Twitch. Dude, I'm just going to run them all. I'm going to do TikTok. Dude, it was just getting late, and I'm like, dude, it's better if I just get the stream going instead of figuring out the RTMP keys and all. But I want to do TikTok next. I think I'm going to do that tomorrow. And I'm nervous about it. I'm not going to lie. Dude, you can die on that hill, bro. You will. Just like Lattie died on hers. Lattie and the Witch's Coven. So somebody knew that story and came back, and when they did American Horror Story, I never watched it. I only watched the first one, which I loved. Murder House. I love Murder House, but I started to watch the second season, and it was all about Betty and Barney Hill and the UFO abduction, which I think they were lying. But I know a lot about UFOs too. I know everything about that. I know everything about ghosts and UFOs, bro. And so they were coming into the house, and they have all these cool. God, I used to draw totally different back then, man. A lot of cross hatching, a lot of didn't ink. You know, like a lot of some of the same stuff is there, but like just really didn't ink. So they were coming into New Orleans. That was a story. You know, you're bringing the reader in. And then this is kind of cool too. So this was the next story. Bro, you gotta imagine, this is probably like 03, 04, 05. This is probably pre-Night Stars or right around Night Stars time. And I would slow walk you. You know what I mean? I'd slow walk you into a story. So you might spend 2-3 pages on friggin' exposition of just walking you into the scene. You know, just building the environment. Where I don't know if I would do that same kind of stuff today because you're reading it so fast. You know, like if we're realistically doing this, I'm sure there'd be some dialogue on top, but it's just like, okay, moving in, okay, horse, okay, blah, blah, blah. And I might even reuse some of this and maybe kind of try to combine it with Candlestick Club, because I'm going to have Candlestick Club take place in like Ultra New Orleans, like, Extreme New Orleans or whatever, like whatever Halloween version I make of it. So then you come in, and we have our SAS member, Randy, right here, Randy Despommier, who has multiple albums out. He's on Spotify, one of the most talented musicians I know, one of the most genuine people I know. Randy Despommier, one of my best friends, lifelong friend. To this day, there for me, bro. To this day, there for me. So my boy Randy Despommier, another incredible musician, and another incredible dude, Greg Wilson. So I have him playing the guitar down there, throwing the coins, tossing them some change. Does anybody even use that anymore? We even use change. And then you had one of those silver cowboys, like the dudes that used to stand out in the quarter and just stand there motionless. And so we kind of have him coming in, stares at you. And that was it. That's all I did. Let's see what year this is. Are we going to be able to see it? Did I even sign it? So that's it. That's Lattie. And then, let's see if I can get this opened up. Y'all want to see the real pictures? So these are, okay. What a weird Lattie story time. All right. So these are the pictures I took back in the day. I'm about to switch it up. Let's see. Using a new program. Okay, so this is, these are the photos I must have taken. I appreciate it, man. That's old school. That's before I had any professional work besides probably Big Head and Cornrow. So this is the Lattie house. It's 3 stories. That's the balcony. These used to be apartments. And then, like I said, Nick Cage bought it. So that top one is going to be the bedroom. That's the balcony that the little kid, I think that's what it was. She was combing, the little slave girl was combing her hair and caught a knot or something, and she was just whipping her, and the little kid ended up out on the balcony and then jumped or something like that. She was so freaked out. And then in here is like a dining room area, and then I'm trying to remember where the was, the Ghost Rider bike. And so we would meet them every now and again. So what we would do is we would go out there every so often. And dude, we might just be, back in the day, we're just hanging out. I would just hang out in the quarter all the time anyway. You know what I mean? This is late night days. Like, I would just go out in the quarter. Bro, I was wild, man. I'd just be out in a bar at like 4 in the morning just smoking cigarettes. I might be drawing in my notebook. Like, really, like, doing the whole thing. Like, doing the whole, doing the art thing or whatever. Or just whatever. Bum thing. I would go to this place, Boofa's. Me and my buddy Rob, they had Portical, which everybody swears by, the Portical burger. And then they had a place down the street called Boofa's. And they had like really like, I thought they had better burgers. And it was open all night. This is pre and post Katrina, so everything was 24 hours. And we would go out there. And dude, Portical is mega fucking overrated, dude. Go to Boofa's. And they have a burger. I don't know if they still have it now. But it was the, God, what was the dude's name? It was RoboCop. Buckaroo Banzai Burger. They had a Buckaroo Banzai Burger. All the burgers in the back were by, they had like really fun and different names. And one of them was the Buckaroo Banzai Burger. I would always get that. And then, dude, you might just catch like a band playing in there late at night. And there would just be like, so there would be like the front bar where it'd be like the bar kind of area, and it was like really thin. And then if you kept going by the bathrooms, you'd turn and it would open up into another room. And there would be like just layout tables, and sometimes there might just be a band back there. You could get a burger, get some beers, you just straight up smoke cigarettes where you eating. Old school days. Where you can't even smoke a cigarette in a bar now in New Orleans. So that's the inside of the house. Again, that's like the other inside. Because I'd always try and get these, like, try and get shots. And what we would do is we would kind of just, like, if we were out around the quarter, we'd just go walk around there and try to catch them smoking, Mr. Tommy smoking a cigarette outside. So we would go and try to catch them. Here's the door. Crazy door, man. Crazy symbols, crazy weird stuff going. Like, ornate is an understatement. And then I didn't have like the baseline occult knowledge that I probably have now, just from 20 years, 25 years of looking at this kind of stuff. But man, it would be really cool to probably like try to dissect this and see what the hell is going on here. So you got griffins, you got some sort of Pegasus chariot. Like, why would you need this? Why would you even want this as a door? Dude, I'm gonna put this in Candlestick Club. I haven't seen this in years. That's what it was. It was the urns. They had these 2 urns. I'm sure I'm gonna have a picture of it. So this is gated. So again, this is the quarter. So anything could be going on at night. You really do need defenses for your home if you live out there or if you have any kind of property out there. You got cherub playing horns. You got the winged eagle, which a lot of people argue that the eagle is a what's the shit that rises up? A phoenix. That's not really what we have in America. A lot of people think it's a phoenix, so I don't know. Don't know. You got the 2 urns again. Very strange door. Very, very strange. So then that's what it was. They had these urns or these pots out at the front door. And that's the face that you saw on that other cover. It was from this. Which again, what is this? And how long has that been there? Has that been there from like the late 1800s? And what happens if you ever been out in the quarter? I used to work at a bar, and after I'd go to work, if there wasn't anything going on, I might just go out to the quarter like real late at night, like 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and there's a shift that happens. Nothing good. Straight up, nothing good happens after like 12 p.m. Really, nothing good happens after 2. And fucking ain't nothing good happening after 4. And so when we would get out the bar, we would go out to the quarter and, I don't know, whatever, dude, you were young and stupid. And again, like I'm dressed like I work at a bar. So people would leave you alone because you look like you're working. But dude, people go around and like, dude, people get drunk and do weird stuff. They try to break into these places. So you really do need the gates and everything like that to block you off. And you need the ironwork and stuff like that. Like, that's the last thing you need is somebody trying to break into your house because they just loaded on something in the middle of the night. Quarter's a dangerous place. I saw somebody on TikTok yesterday talking about like, it was like somebody was like, oh man, I just drove into New Orleans and I just checked out Bourbon Street. And he was like, man, it's like really gross and smells bad and yada yada. And I'm like, yeah, dude, it's Bourbon Street. It always blows my mind. Every now and again, you'll see people like bringing their kids out there or something like that. Like if you go daytime and they'll be walking around with their kids and it's just like, all right. So there's the outside of the house. Again, everything's got to be blocked off. Might have skipped a few. There's the outside of the house. I got a really cool one coming up. Another cool one. Big old house, man. Huge. Takes up the whole corner of a block. Then there's like a little po' boy place on the corner. And I'm probably taking this with my ex-girlfriend's camera. So this is like really old school. Probably a finger right there. Calais Real. So there's the balcony again. I guess I was probably putting my finger in front of it. There's the balcony a little chick ran off of. Really beautiful place. So this is like opened up. So you could, if it wasn't like a murder house and like a building full of ancient, historic atrocities, like this would be like a great place to just like hang out, you know, a rainy night, or man, Mardi Gras, you could just be chilling up there watching what's going on in the quarter. So I think this is the garage. I'm almost positive. No, that's going to be the front door again. So there's the rest of the house. More shots of the house. Man, I didn't know how to use a camera, huh? It's like a finger in every shot. Awesome balcony, man. I mean, just phenomenal. He doesn't own it anymore. Nick Cage doesn't own it anymore. And I heard he's a wild dude. Like, people would tell stories about him. Because he'd be out in New Orleans. And there's a lot of, like, weird... Alright, hold up. I got another one for y'all. So then, let me just see the thumbnails and see what I'm looking at here. So then there's a, what is this? Oh, man. So there's a wax museum in New Orleans. And I remember, I don't know where I heard about it from or who told me about it, but, no, they were from, again, dude, this is like years, and I mean, this is like 03, 04. I mean, I was in New Orleans, so it's going to be after Katrina, like 05, 06. Yeah, nah, dude, bruh, it was a disposable camera, and then I dropped it off at fucking Fox Photo, and then I went and picked it up, and I scanned them in. No, dude, bruh, it's just old school, man. I'm not a photographer, bruh. Anyway. Hold on. So, then, I went to the Wax Museum one day, and the only thing... I don't know, dude, this is all around that same time period, because this was the only, you don't hear much about Lattie. Like, she's this mystical creature, and she's this random New Orleans. There's another comic almost did with John McCarthy about the Axeman in New Orleans. So back in the day, maybe not even that same time period, there was a guy running around killing people with an axe. And there's a song about it, the Axeman in New Orleans. There's an old, you can hear, somebody took the record and uploaded it on YouTube. You can find it, and it still sounds like a record spinning. But yeah, dude, there's a wax museum out there in New Orleans, and it does like the history of New Orleans, and Lattie part of it. So here's her with one of like her slave. I don't think you're supposed to take pictures, so I'm probably like, I'm trying to like sneak them in. And man, just rip. I tell you what, I'd fall for that trap. Lattie looking good, man. I'd fall for that trap. She could get me in her attic. So yeah, here's her with one of her like slaves or whatever that she's about to go like turn into a circus creature, you know, some oddity. Really cool, really cool. And I wonder if that's what she looked like. I don't know. So there's a few like New Orleans things that are just hyper interesting. And I think maybe I should, like, kind of reintegrate that. I think I am going to. I think I'm going to reintegrate it into Candlestick Club. Because I was thinking about that the other night. Museum is closed. Wow. Crazy. Man, when I went, I was the only person going through. And so I can't imagine... I can't imagine it. Dude, you're not coming to New Orleans to go to a wax museum. You know? So, yeah, dude, that's Delphine Lattie right there. My girl. So, look, it looks like Metairie Trash, to be honest with you. They might be related. They treat people the same. Looks a lot like Metairie Trash, actually. So yeah, man. I think I was trying to like sneak them in, thinking I was gonna get in trouble. So that's it, dude. Delphine Lattie, Madame Lattie. And so apparently the other part of the story is that what you call it would come in there every now and again. What's her name? The voodoo chick. Marie Laveau. Like there was some kind of connection with them. And so it makes you wonder, dude. It makes you wonder what the hell was going on back in the day. And this goes back into my Candlestick Club thing. Makes you wonder, like, what's happening. I still stand by this, dude. They got them 4 statues outside of St. Louis Cathedral, and they're claiming that they're this, that, or the other thing. They have a whole write-up about them. They're saying they're the oldest statues in New Orleans, the oldest statues in Louisiana, and that they were like 2 years apart from Andrew Jackson's statue. They look nothing alike. They look like they're hundreds of years older. And when you really get into all of like the Mardi Gras parades and stuff like that, I just find it bizarre. I think it's a bizarre history, a bizarre story, and I'm at a place where I just question all that stuff. I really wonder what it's a very as we come up on Lent, as we come up on Good Friday, it's a very odd thing that you would have like a giant event that's all about like decadence and hedonism for like weeks in advance of Lent, when you're supposed to like lock it down and like give up things and like the most holiest time of the year, and you name everything after all these like Greek gods, which are probably like Nephilim anyway, and you know, they probably are like the children of the fallen angels, and it's just like bizarre. It's just bizarre that a highly Christian society in New Orleans would also have this other very bizarre history and bizarre like things going on. And dude, you do hear like random stories over the years about, you know, man, I tell you what, there's a lot of vampires out there. I used to go to the dungeon a lot of strange happenings, man. And this is certainly one of them. So that is Delphine Lalaurie. And you want to go to Big Head and Cornrow next? As we're doing a completely random tour. Let's see. And I used to save everything. Alright, man. Y'all ready for this, dude? This is oh, dude, we're doing it, bro. I'm about to draw him. So this is old school. Was the Prince of Darkness hanging out around the museum? He might have been, dude. He might have been one of. That's where I met him. Like, I was taking pictures of Delphine Lalaurie, and there was this creepy vampire statue, and then it just came to life, and it was Kurt Amaker. Definitely, dude. There ain't no doubt, dude. Silicone Dave. Hey, bro, the fight's still going on, Silicone Dave. It's mental warfare over here, bro. I'm staying. But dude, I'm very heavily. I'm leaning on. Look, I don't know what the hell's. I don't know what's going on, right? I don't have the answers. I don't know what's happening. Yeah, man. I just find those two things very, very odd. It's an odd. Like, why? Like, so the same people. I look like shit with the light hitting me. So the same. My arms look small, bro. It's driving me nuts, dude. I need to get swole up again, bro. And anyway, dude. It is strange that, like, yeah, this hyper. Dude, we have parishes, right? Like, we're the only state out of all 50 states that doesn't have counties. We have parishes because we have such a Christian origin. But yet at the same time, we're also the place where we have like the most insane like parties and, you know, most outrageous event of the year. Maybe anywhere in the world, unless you're talking about like some of those like, you know, Pacific Island countries and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a Mardi Gras is basically that, dude. It's getting all your partying and all the sin out before you go into Lent, and it just seems like a bizarre thing. And then on top of that, Jackson Square, this beautiful ornate church that is iconic to the city, also has these four. Like, why would you have Bacchus in the courtyard? Like, why would you have these different statues? Why would they be part of like a Catholic church, man? I'm telling you, dude. There's something that's sketch, man. And then the St. Charles Cathedral is a whole nother thing. Again, I don't have the answers. I don't know. I find it fascinating. Best I can do is throw it into Candlestick Club, you know? And I'm leaning towards doing a Kickstarter or something like that with that. And man, to your point, always angry when when I see a comment like that or your comment that you posted, Man, ask Travis, dude. It's an up and down road, bro. It's a tough road when you don't. Anybody that does music or art or any of those types of things, unless you're propagated by the system and you're propagated by like a company or something like that, which if you are, you're probably gonna have to make you're probably gonna have to make some deals, or you may have to give away a couple soul tokens to keep getting work. And man, yeah. So those things motivate me, and that's like something why I want to get something going, get something going on my own if I can, and hopefully I'll sell them pages. I got a lot of pages up in New York. They're on their way to New York right now to Comic Connect. Comic Connect is the company that has the Death of Superman pages. They just got all the Death of Superman pages. So this is I went there once. Years ago, went there once years ago when I was in New York, and I was with the Superbud guys, and we just popped in there one day, and they showed us around and let us see everything up at they had all kinds of crazy old comics, old artwork, stuff like that. And I reached out to a bunch of dealers, and it was the way the guy was talking with me, and it was also. So what I've been doing is like, I'm never going to sell my pages if I'm just going to like, I don't do enough shows, and I don't know if eBay's even really the spot for it. So I decided to go with a dealer, and again, this is high-end stuff, man. I mean, they're selling like hundreds of $1,000 pages, like, tens of thousands of dollars anyway. So I felt that them having the Death of Superman pages and well, let me finish this thought. And so I felt like them having the Death of Superman pages is going to have, that means they're like the premier or one of the premier. They're clearly one of the premier. There's not that many art dealers out there. And I don't know. I figured that might get the most eyes on it. Always angry. Someone told me, don't be a surgeon unless you can't imagine any other life but as a surgeon, because it's so demanding and many people destroy their family life. Being an artist is kind of similar. If you do it, you have to be all in, no half measures. I guess the only difference would be financially would be the difference. But you also trade. There's a trade-off there for. I dated a girl. She wasn't going to be a surgeon. She was in med school, and man, got along. Dude, she was great. We used to talk about Ghost. She was sweetheart, little Spanish girl. And she was like half German and half Spanish. Man, sweet. I met her at a Halloween party one night, and but bro, those early days of being when you're in med school, dude, you just don't have time. Like and I can't even imagine being a surgeon. I mean, that's crazy. That's in my opinion, that goes beyond. Like that's like a skill set on top of just learning. Yeah, I think you got a cold, or whatever. That's completely different. That's crazy. And I would argue that I don't know. You'd have to answer that. You said, don't be a surgeon unless you can't imagine any other life but as a surgeon. So that sounds like more like you didn't have a choice, maybe, almost. And I would argue that maybe Travis might say the same thing. I would certainly say the same thing, that like being an artist, being a comic book artist, dude, most days it sucks. You know what I mean, dude? And there's a lot of like trials with it and stuff like that. And just like med school, there's a long journey and an uncertain journey about like what your future is going to be. And to your point, like, here, let me switch this over because this is a good segue. Dude, the first thing I'm doing is this. Hold up. Is Big Head and Cornrow. So this is my first, like, if you want to call it published work, this is my first published work, is Big Head and Cornrow. And by Moon Jones. My boy Moon Jones. I sincerely hope he's doing well, man. That dude, he did more for me did more for me than maybe he even realizes. So, but like when you're first kind of coming out and this is your first work, like nobody really, this is not, not as fancy as like TMNT or having like toys on Walmart shelves or whatever shelves. So it's hard for people to even like understand or comprehend it. But you're just happy to be getting some work in and somebody's actually paying you to do something. So when years later, you have guys from high school, like a talented musician, like, just good dude like David Perez, or people you grew up with, like Always Angry, telling you stuff. Dude, that'll hit. Like, that'll hit you out of nowhere every now and again. My buddy was out with, man, do you know Beefy, Always Angry? I don't know if he went to Jesuit or not, if Beefy did. My buddy was out with somebody the other night, dude. It was my aunt, and they were all like talking about it and stuff like that. So those are like really rewarding moments, and they do kind of hit you. It's funny that sometimes they come right at the right time. Sometimes they come right at those times when you're kind of like, man, what am I doing next? What am I gonna do? There's so much uncertainty. There's so much like, where do you go? And y'all hear me say the same stuff for the last 3 years. It's you just got to keep walking and try to figure it out. And ideally, if I sell art, the game plan is to use that to just kind of fund whatever I'm working on next. So yeah, man, this was Big Head and Cornrow. Is that Zombie Chester Cheetah on the left from Cheetos to Meth? Bro, it's New Orleans. It's New Orleans, bro. That's what happens to Chester back in the day. Yeah, dude. So I went to a school in New Orleans called NOCA, New Orleans Center of Creative Arts. And there was a girl there, never talked. She was sweet. Like, you knew she was sweet, but she never talked. You know what I mean? But she was just, like, nice, and she would always kind of, like, be there. She, it's art school, so everybody's odd in their own way. And she was just, man, all she would do is draw animals. So I remember when I was trying to get into SCAD in the Jack Kirby school, I had to draw a page with, like, man, I don't know if it was, like, a bobcat or a lion or something was attacking somebody. I don't even remember what it was. And I had her draw it for me, because she was really good at drawing animals. I was like, dude, how do you draw like a lion? She couldn't draw, not as good at anything else, but man, she was just one of them people, bro. She just loved drawing, she would just draw animals, wolves, drawing wolves and shit. When you were at NOCA, was comic book art looked down upon? Hold up. Kinda yes and no. So I would hack it. I would kind of you're not going there to draw comic books. And but all the kids love comics, right? So like every group, you're gonna get split into different groups. Like in grammar school you have like 1A, 1B, 1C. So you go into these different groups, and then you go to the different teachers on different days of the week. So everything's very focused. You're not switching classes. Like if you're doing 2D, you're doing 2D all morning, and then you go to your real high school, wherever that is. And then if you're doing life drawing one day, you're only doing life drawing. It was a really interesting place, man. Y'all are getting the origin story today. So we had four main teachers. They had Mr. Pirelli, who's still there, and man, he was like a really cool painter, and he was young. He was young when I was there, and I think his dad was an artist, because his dad's name is on, if you go to NOMA, New Orleans Museum of Art, they have like famous artist names, New Orleans artist names in the brick on the building, and his dad was one of them. And then we had a woman, Miss Jackson, who did these really like intense, I'm not going to get into it now, but like she had her own like really intense paintings that she would do. Then we had Miss Johnson, who was like this kind of like, she was this young, like she was just this really nice, like, I don't know, man. She did like we did like it was this black lady, and she kind of had like that. She had like this New Orleans vibe to her, and the other two were white. I'm just trying to paint the picture, and like they were all young when I was there, and like yeah, she always had like the I don't know, like the hair. It's not like a do-rag, but kind of like the drawing I had of what's her name. And we would do like etchings in her class. So like you would get this white piece of paper and you'd have to do etchings. And she was kind of like the leader of all the teachers. She was really cool and really, really nice. And then we had this other lady. She was Miss Jackson. So it's Miss Johnson, Mr. Pirelli, Miss Jackson. And she was from the UK. And so you had this British lady, and that would be like a clay class. Like you would go in there and she was teaching like sculptures. You know, and we would be in there like doing clay sculptures and stuff. And she was really cool. And I used to smoke weed with her son Harry because he was my age, so I would hang out with Harry and we'd go blaze before class. And like she was all of them had like their own like different vibes. You know what I mean? Like you're kind of getting like a little bit of something from each of them, and it's just kind of cool to be around like adult artists. Like I said, Miss Johnson was like the leader. Mr. Pirelli and Miss Parker, that was her name. The other white woman that did the other paintings was Miss Parker, and she was pretty young, and she was really nice too. But she was kind of like really jumpy as well. So she like it was very cartoonish dynamic. So you had like the really cool Miss Johnson teacher, the younger painter guy who probably. He just kind of let us do what we wanted. Like, he was mega... I liked his class because it was just kind of like... Alright, like, y'all just do whatever. And, then Miss Parker was kind of like the frantic, jumpy one. And then you had, like, the really kind of cool, British lady who really didn't give a shit either. You know what I mean? Like when you were at Noka, none of... So, I'm getting to your question. But none of them really, like, gave a shit. Miss Johnson probably she was the leader. Like, she was definitely, like, the one that ran the show. But, like, it's not like normal school. So there's this, like, ultra level, like, freedom there. You know what I mean? Like, there's this, like, I don't know. It was just a lot different than what you would imagine like real school would be like. Not that you like could come and go as you wanted, but like there was this expressiveness and this kind of like they left you alone a little bit to a certain extent, where they might come and maybe they might see how you behaved, or they might see a certain maybe there's charcoal. Okay? Like, believe it or not, I'm very light-handed when I'm drawing. I'm very, very light. And I would always draw light. And, but when I would deal with charcoal, I could get more definition and I could get more depth in my drawings. And then there's something else called Conti of Paris, which is very much similar to charcoal, but it's a much more firm and tight piece of like charcoal. Okay, so it's more like you're drawing with like maybe like a tough Crayola, but you would do it the same way. You're going to be doing it the same way as you would with charcoal. And so we would use that a lot in like life drawing classes. And those usually that was going to be Miss Parker, and they might just see something in you, and they just like they'd identify it. You know what I mean? And they'd just be like, hey, you need like. Because that was my thing. She was like, this is like your medium. Like, you should be doing more in Conti. You should be using Conti more than anything else. Because color wasn't my thing. Sculpture wasn't really my thing. I liked etching. With Miss Johnson. I really liked Miss Johnson. And I liked all of them. But you would have a weekly project. So every Monday you would come in, and no matter what class you were in, you would have a weekly project. And so, like I said before, every class had their own kind of like title. You had a name for your class. You had to pick a famous artist to represent your class. And then you would go in as a group, and you would all pick like who you wanted your class name to be. Like, do you want it to be like Rembrandt? Do you want it to be like whatever? And I remember my group, we wanted to be called Stan Lee. They wanted Stan Lee to be the thing. And so like they kind of knocked it down. We ended up being Romare Bearden. That was the artist that we chose. So I was my class was Romare Bearden. And so that was like they didn't want you drawing cartoony stuff. Not that they hated, they probably frowned upon it a reasonable amount, but it was also not what the class was called for, right? Like, so like if you have to do like a still life, most of them are going to be still lifes or self-portraits, you know? That's going to be your homework for the week. You're only going to have one project the whole week. And you have all week to do that project, and then Mondays you just do critique. So you come in on Mondays, everybody's there, your art's all up on the wall, and dude, if you can't have thin skin, and that's probably where you learn some competitiveness too, because you're sitting in there every Monday with all these kids from all over New Orleans. These are your peers, you know. These are arguably the best artists, and you just sit there and shit on each other's art. You just chop down each other's art every Monday, and then the teachers come in and chop down your art and tell you everything you're doing wrong. They tell you things you're doing right, and they tell you things you're doing wrong. So that's how you start every week. That's how you start every week. And I mean, I was good, so I was talented enough that I could, nobody's ever really gonna like it. They'd nitpick my stuff. They would get on me. I do appreciate this because they would get on me if I started doing the same thing over and over. They'd call me out on it. And if they gave you a critique. So, like, what I would do is, same thing I do today. I like doing those collages, just like I do on comic book covers. I like doing that, let's see if we can pull it up real quick. I like doing those, like, kind of collage type things, like this. You know what I mean? Where there's, like, big figures, little figures, stuff like... Actually, this is a perfect example. Big figures, little figures, whatever. And what I was doing, and I learned this lesson back at NOCA, is that I was drawing everything the same size and on the same, like, plane, okay? So where everything was just here, 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 here. Everything was on the same, like, plane. And it didn't give it any depth. It didn't give it any interest. It didn't make you, like, look at it more or look deeper into it. And so that was something, I did that a few weeks in a row, and I remember Miss Parker, like, kind of getting on me about it. It kind of punked me. Rightfully so. She was just like, like we told you, like you're just doing the same thing over and over, and you're not listening to what we're telling you to do. Like, this is fine if this is how you like to do it. That's fine, but you're not pushing it. And so later, years later, when I go to do like Ghostbusters and stuff like that, I'm implementing those things that I learned at NOCA. You know what I mean? So things are overlapping one another, and things are bigger and smaller, and there's depth, and there's stuff behind the skeleton, and, there's things that if you sit with it, ideally, you'd want to look at it for a little bit longer and see what's going on here, like maybe like with her, the perspective is from above, where this is like a straight-on perspective. These people are back there behind them. These people should be, their heads are behind them. These giant heads are behind these people. Well, in real perspective, the giant head would be up in front because they'd be closer to the camera, right? But in here, they're further away. So ironically enough, that's like something I'm gonna end up learning. That's something I learned at NOCA. I probably learned more at NOCA than I did at SCAD. Realistically, I mean, I learned a lot at SCAD, but I was partying too much. I was running around, and I don't know, man. It was just. I had an art teacher at Rummel who I love. She died, Ganna Jones. But she would just yell at me because I was bad in class. And then at NOCA, I actually found something today. It's funny. I had a gold tooth. You could go, again, this is the 90s, bro. And I had a gold tooth with a Nike check on it, and I would always put it on in class. Like, it was just like a clip that you could put over your tooth. We got it at this place, man, out in Rivertown years ago, and I'd rock the gold tooth in class sometimes. She'd always yell at me and give me punish work. But yeah, dude, those things that I learned at NOCA, and just the attitudes, a lot of the attitudes and a lot of the I guess like mindset of the people, of the different teachers, and it was the first time that I'm around. Dude, I'm growing up in Metairie. What's an artist? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't have any in my family. I don't know what that is. I don't know who these people are. I had never been around like a painter. I'd never been around, like, you might have like just like a teacher that teaches an art class, but not really. We didn't have that at St. Anne. You really didn't have too much of it at Rummel either. You might just have assignments and then you kind of go do it and maybe you get some. So these were like real people that had dedicated their life to art, in their different ways. And I'm sure in hindsight, like looking back, I'm sure they had really interesting journeys. Especially somebody like a Miss Jackson. Like, I'd love to know how she ended up in the bywater of New Orleans. How did a British sculptor end up in the bywater of New Orleans? And then all of a sudden her son came to live with her. And I remember I loved Harry. Harry was a cool dude, man. And he came from Britain and we would just chill out. And we got along really well. And, or like a Miss Johnson or a Mr. Pirelli, and they all had this like bohemian kind of I don't know, man. Again, this is late 90s. It's New Orleans. It's pre-Katrina, and they're all coming from like a different like lineage again. You know what I mean? So you have like the more like African teacher, and she has that like New Orleans experience. And then you have, like, the British lady, and she has, like, that kind of vibe and experience. And then you maybe have more of, like, the uptown kind of, like, you know, Mr. Pirelli and them. They're going to have their own kind of different kind of vibe and New Orleans kind of more traditional experience. And man, it was just cool. Like, dude, it's cool as a young person. It does. I just feel like it just felt... To me, it felt like a lot more authentic than it does now. Like, they felt like much more authentic people to me. And, yeah, man, dude, just really, really cool people. And then you had, like, a very, I know, like, it's so played out now, but you did, dude. Like, and then the class was like that, too. So you had this crazy, diverse group of kids in the class as well. And we all melded, like, fine, man. Like, everybody everyone got along great. It was, like, the coolest group of kids. But you got kids, you got kids from, like, I'm probably one of the only kids from Metairie in there. You got kids from, like, Ben Franklin and stuff like that were, like, more like the smarter kids. You have people from, like, maybe, like, other parts of New Orleans. Like, dude, super multicultural. Like, you kind of got, like, a little more thug, a little more, like, urban kind of kids that are going to St. Aug and Reed and places like that. And, dude, one of the kids that I went to school with, Courtney Buckley, he calls himself So Young now. Man, if you ever go out in Lakeview, there's a big mural on the side of the building in Lakeview. And, dude, this was like my, dude, he was like my little partner, man. He was, dude, me and Courtney, every morning... I'd get there early, and I had a car, so I'm driving, and then, we would go drive around, and we would listen to, like, Eminem and Wu-Tang. Like, Eminem and Wu-Tang come out. Because we had, like, so much time. Like, the bus would drop them off, so whatever time it was, and then I would just get there early to hang out with them, and it was really me and Courtney, a lot of the times, dude. It would really just be me and him, and he was a quiet dude, but he was one of the most brilliant artists. Man, one of the most talented artists I know, or that I've ever been around. And he was just different. He was just a different dude even back then. And dude, he's very popular in New Orleans right now. Like, anytime they have Essence Fest or anytime they have Jazz Fest, like, he's doing the posters. Dude, he does all that stuff. Like, super, super cool dude. Hold up, y'all gotta see his, let me go to his Instagram. And so if you go out into Lakeview, there's a giant Lakeview mural, and that's, Courtney did that. And so me and him, we would meet up at night, we would drive around during the day, and then we would meet up at night, and, we would go spray paint and tag. We would go tag, like, not buildings, but we would go tag, like, there was this canal bank that had concrete on it, and we'd just go out there and like fuck around and tag. We'd go buy spray painted Walmart and then go do graffiti. Yeah, dude, like Courtney's like super, super talented. Hold up, I'm gonna show y'all his work. So every morning, is this it? Let's see if it'll show up. Every morning I'd pick up Courtney, and then we would go drive around New Orleans, and dude, I'd get McDonald's every morning. This is him right here, right there. And I'd get McDonald's, and for whatever reason, I didn't eat the sausage. I'd always give it to him. And dude, he had an art show recently. There's him, Latoya. Say whatever you want about Latoya, doesn't matter. He's still out there doing this stuff. You know what I mean? Tanking the Bangas. I don't know if anybody. I think that's Tanking the Bangas. Dude, awesome local band, like sick local band. And so he does tattoos. And God, man, but you could tell out of all the people there, he was different. And he wasn't super talkative. Like, I mean, he would talk, you know what I mean? But he was just a little bit different. And he was all about hip hop. And I remember he had a notebook that he would write down lyrics. So like we would all try to like learn lyrics of the different songs, you know what I mean? Like, so I guess we could rap them. And like Wu-Tang Triumph had just come out, and so everybody in class knew the lyrics to Triumph. And he would take rap lyrics and he'd be writing them down so he'd learn the words. And so every morning we'd go get McDonald's breakfast, and then we would drive around the Bywater and New Orleans. So there were two different campuses. This is a senior year. At first it was out by Audubon Park, and then it switched halfway through the year, and it was in the new building that it's in now in the Bywater. So the original building is going to be the one that Harry Connick and Marcellus and all those any New Orleans legend has been at NOCA, and they were at that original building, including Courtney and or So Young. And yeah, man, he dude, I don't know how to describe it. Just a different you had talented people in there. You did. And you had skilled people, but he would just like think different. And he would say, and like when we'd be bullshitting or whatever, I don't know, dude, he would just say like weird stuff. Like you could just tell he had like this artsy vibe, but at the same time, he's like, you know what I mean? He's got the same, like, dude, he's like he's all in on like New Orleans rap, and like, you know what, like he's that dude. He's that dude. You know what I mean? So I know everybody likes like Becky Foss and people like that or whatever, but like, I mean, that sums it up right there, dude. You know what I mean? Like, dude, loved Hot Boys. This is like when Hot Boys is like super. I was all about Tupac, so I would always put on I'm driving, so I'm listening to what the fuck I want. So I would always put on Tupac and stuff like that. But dude, loved Hot Boys, and probably not as well known as he should be. He seems successful every now and again. Every now and again we text, like Blue Moon, not often. But nah, I mean, dude. Definitely, I'm saying New Orleans legend, man. Straight up. So yeah, so that was probably the most talented person I was around at NOCA. There was another girl, Ashley. So you kind of had like hip hop kind of crowd, and then you had like and it's the 90s. And then you had like kind of like goth, like metal people and stuff like that. So there were like a lot of like goth people, and I gravitated and hung out with the hip hop. So yeah, man, spent a lot of time with this dude. Very, very good guy. If y'all are, if you're watching this, follow So Artwork on Instagram. I don't know where else he is, but super, super cool dude. Much love to my man Courtney Buckley. So yeah. Anyway, to answer Travis's question, no, but they would not let you draw comic book stuff. Like I couldn't draw, like I couldn't go draw Spawn. So the way that I would trick it, the way that I, long way to get there. So the way that I would trick people, or the way that I would kind of like, I would 5 hours later answer this question, 2 hours later intro's over, 5 hours later answer question. The way I would trick them into letting me draw what I wanted was that I would use toys. So like if we had to do a life drawing, they would be like, and I have this one. This is a real one that I did. They would be like, draw something. You had to draw something out of perspective. So you had to draw something big, small, and small, big, or you had to do something. Now obviously they want you to use like, I mean you didn't even have cell phones then, or you did, but it was like a Nokia. Oh man, this stream is rich in lore. Never heard most of this. Dude, it just kind of happened, man. Well, dude, I mean, there's, you gotta fill the stream. No, well, dude, it's all started because how did it even start? I don't even remember how we got on this path. No, Travis brought up Lala Ree, but this is like this is a lot of the origin story. And man, dude, so to your comment, I'm gonna get to your question, Travis. I'm gonna answer it. But to get to your comment, always angry, dude, that was one of the like biggest turning points. Was so when I'm gonna tell y'all a real story. There was this girl Barbie, good friend of mine, love her, another talented artist. Dude, a lot of times you have talented people, but circumstances don't allow them to allow them to keep going. You know what I mean? I know Courtney does tattoos, and that probably let him do his painting and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I said, if we ever hang out again, I said, we need to, he had a 40th birthday. I should have gone. He invited me, but, what was I saying? But yeah, so I was, it was this girl Barbie that she went to St. Anne with us, dude. I'm not gonna say her last name, but dude, coolest, man, one of the coolest chicks in the world. And I loved her. And she was telling me I needed to go to Noka. And I was at Rummel at the time. And, dude, by the time you hit, like, sophomore year, you kind of, like, are making friends outside of your, like, you're kind of settling in. You grow up with all your St. Anne people. And I know a little bit about your story. I'm not going to say it. But, I know you left at a certain point from the St. Anne crew. But if you had stayed, dude, you're with those people. You're total, that's all you know. Is those St. Anne kids or your grammar school kids. And then you go to high school and you kind of with grammar school kids, but then you're meeting other people. And then by freshman, sophomore year, you're kind of like, you're forming your new crews and everything's kind of settling in and stuff like that. You kind of got your high school crew. And I had the idea to go to Noka, and I went out there, and I remember I brought some artwork in there. And I was nervous because you had to apply. So this is sophomore summer going into junior year, and you had to apply. And this is gonna be a crazy story. And I remember it was different teachers than the ones that I described before. So it was a whole different crew of people. It was this old white man, this old like kind of like super like hippie dude, corduroy overalls, paint on them and stuff like that. Like really. Like, he was living it. Like, this dude was, like, the real deal, I'm sure. I brought in my artwork, and I was nervous because I'd never really shown. I'd always been, like, that guy kind of growing up that the teachers would identify as an artist. I had won, there was an art contest in 1992, Batman Visits City Park. I had won that art contest, and I was in a parade. I was on TV. I was in a parade with McGruff, Batman, and the Tiny Toons. I showed y'all the pictures from that. And I was on TV. They ran commercials where I would hold up. I would be on well, I guess it was Fox or whatever it was, and they would run it during Batman the Animated Series. So during the commercial break, they would be like, "Hey, here's the winner of the Batman Visits City Park Art Contest," and there was like an age group. And I'd won like the second to top age group. Besides like college, the other girl was this other chick had won the college one, and so that was the only other time I'd really like put my heart out there. Other than that, I was just like that dude growing up at school. Like you were that guy. So this was one of the first times I'm ever like bringing it in there to be judged in front of everybody. And man, they gave me like a raring review. They liked all my artwork, and I remember the old man in the corduroy suspenders and overalls. He told my mom, he was like, congratulations, mama. Now go get him some Rally's fries. He told her to go get me some Rally's fries and a Rally's burger. And so I had gotten into Noka, but I was scared because Rummel had a rotating schedule, and then I wouldn't have been able to go to Rummel anymore. So I'd have to go to Grace King. And even though I knew all the Grace King kids, I knew a lot of Grace King kids from the ballpark, dude, man, it's hard to describe, bro. Like, if you went to Catholic school your whole life, like, public school is like a whole nother... Dude, it was just a cool... Dude, it was just a cool thing. It was a weird thing to say. He was a very, like... Again, I don't know what other word to use here. It's the 90s. There's no Dude, imagine this, man. Like, dude, there's no social media. There's no, like, This is why I'm saying it was more authentic. There's no performance. Like, this dude was... I don't know what his medium was. I don't know what his focus was. Most of these people go and teach at Noka so they can subsidize doing the artwork that they love on the side, whether it's etching or sculpture or whatever. And they're probably not making a great deal of money. And there's no... I guess what I'm getting at is, like, the advent of social media made everything feel much more performative and much more for an audience. And these teachers, there was... Dude, that's why I'm trying to describe them to you as best I can. There's some things I'm leaving out because it's like personal stuff and I don't think it would be appropriate. But like that's who this dude was. And like, yeah, dude, the whole like rally fry thing, it was just like a cool, funny, weird, I don't know, dude, it was cool, you know? And I'm like a Burger King kid, you know? So I think we probably went to rallies. I'll ask my mom if I talk to her later. So I got in. But then I became like really good friends. I was becoming friends with everybody, and I didn't want to leave Rummel. And this is one of those moments of life is gonna decide certain things for you sometimes too, man. I'm telling you, because I've had this happen. I've had this happen in life where you might be wanting to go. I say life, God, life. What you insert whatever. Not a theological or a debate about stuff like that. I rejected it. So I got into Noka, I got into this art school, and I rejected it. And I stayed at Rummel. And then that year at Rummel, I got in so much trouble, man. It was the year, like, Columbine happened. And I remember, like, I had, my cousin gave my teacher a note talking about how they were going to put a pipe bomb in this and that or whatever. And she thought it was me. And she gave it to the disciplinarian, who hated me anyway because I'd gotten in a bunch of fights and I got in trouble for forging. I would forge people's signatures, their parents' signatures, because I was good at art, so I could mimic it pretty well. So I would forge people's. I got suspended a few times, and I got suspended for fighting as well. And it was really funny because for suspension, it didn't mean you get to sit home. It meant you get to go work with like the Mexican janitors, who were super nice. They were awesome, and they let us go do whatever we want. But I think the whole mindset behind it was that, like, hey, if you keep getting suspended, you're going to be cleaning the bus. You're going to be, like, doing this. And they ended up being the coolest friggin' people at the school. You know what I mean? I remember I got in trouble this time for forging, and they had the janitor, Pedro, barely spoke any English. And I remember, like, so we had to, like, just follow him around and do whatever he wanted all day. And me and the kid who I forged his paper, he looked at us when the bell rang, and he just goes, "Go, play." And dude, we went out on the football field, and they had the mats that you jump over and land on the, when you're doing like high jump and stuff like that, they were way tucked off in the back of the football field. Dude, me and him went and took a nap all morning on the football field and did nothing, bruh. We were looking for Marlboro Miles because we would find cigarette packs and we were picking up Marlboro Miles. Dude, we just chilled out all day. So anyway, this dude, like most authentic dude in the world, the rallies teacher. And, yeah, so, but anyway, I rejected it. And I kept getting in trouble and I got suspended. And, I remember they found that note and they were claiming that I was like going to blow up the school and all this other nonsense, which I genuinely was not. I didn't write the note. I think my cousin wrote it to F with the teacher. And so the disciplinarian, since I had been suspended so many times, kind of already had it out for me. And I was always getting detention at Rummel. And if I'm being super honest, I liked it because I liked hearing my name. I liked hearing my name on the intercom. So like I liked it when like they would call out my name for detention. Like I got a kick out of it. And yeah, dude, I remember like, dude, it was just like this crazy event. Dude, I didn't rat out my cuz, bruh. And it was, dude, wait, I'm gonna tell another Burger King story. So the teacher, I'm not gonna say her name, but she was hot, man. She was sexy. And she would always like tell me stuff like how I'd be so much better looking if I took care of myself. I'm at an all-boys school, and so I'm coming in there like my hair's a mess. She was only teaching there for 1 year. She was kind of wild. And she would always be telling me stuff. She would always be like kind of sweet with me and like kind of like single me out, but she was always telling me like, dude, like, you know, if you'd be so much cuter if you like combed your hair. You'd be so much cuter if you shaved and you know, like kind of hinting like, dude, you'd be, come on, man, like your appearance matters. She was a great teacher. So anyway, I'm in the lunchroom after all of this had happened, and I used to do this thing. Man, this is y'all getting all the lore today, or a lot of lore. So what I would do is my mom would give me lunch money. Okay, she'd give me lunch money, and I would go and I would steal milks, you know, the little bag milks, and I would just I would get like a super fry for $1. So I'd just get one super fry, and then I'd keep the money. I'd buy comics. I'd go to BSI and buy comics on the weekend. I'd save up my money all week, and I'd have like $20. Or I would get food, and then I'd like walk out the other way. And if you did it like kind of cool, if you did it like smooth enough, like you wouldn't you could, if you didn't, I worked at an illegal Medicaid clinic as well at one point, and the guy over there used to tell us all the time, look like you know what you're doing whether you do or not. That's a story for another day. We're not doing the illegal Medicaid clinic today. In a warehouse, and I dressed like a nurse in scrubs for years, and wild one. Wild adventure. So dude, we're in the lunchroom, and dude, I used to do this thing, fries for the hungry, and I'd walk around with my super fry basket, and people would give me like leftover food, and sometimes I'd do handstands, or I'd do some like silly stuff for tater tots, and I don't know, dude, like whatever, the disciplinarian just had an eye out for me, and he called me out one day in front of everybody in the lunchroom, and dude, I go, dude, I forget how it went, but I was just like, you know what? Fuck you. And I said it in front of the whole lunchroom, dude, and everybody got up and started clapping, and everybody that clapped got detention. I was no longer to eat in the lunchroom for the rest of the year, and they asked me to leave Rummel. So it was one of those life events where I guess I'm going to Noka, you know what I mean? Like, I guess I don't have anywhere else to go. I'm going to Grace King anyway. I guess I'm going to go to Noka now. And it ended up being one of the best experiences of my life. And the other awesome thing was the hot teacher that would always be telling me stuff. She would let me, my mom would bring me Burger King because they were kind of pissed off about the whole event and how it was going on. So my mom would bring me Burger King at lunch, and I'd sit outside the lunchroom eating Burger King, and the hot teacher would sit with me, or she'd let me go sit in her office, and I'd eat Burger King with her while she was on like lunch break and stuff like that. And then the next year I went to Noka, dude. So that's how the story played out. What was the other question? Wasn't there another question in there somewhere? And that was your officer and gentleman moment. I have nowhere, dude. It was no, dude. I was like Chris Farley in Wayne's World 2, dude. But the moral of the story is they no, they didn't like us drawing comic book stuff at Noka. So I hope that answers your question, Travis. Thank you for bringing that up today. I like to keep it brief, but dude, it was so wild, bro. But that's the true story, man. That is the hold up. So it was great, dude. I had a great time over there. And here's the other part, bro. I would hate to be there when your old lady asks where you went to eat. Fuck you. Nah, dude. That, come on, bro. Is this it? Yeah, this is it, dude. This is me when I'm getting kicked out of Rummel. My junior year, dude. This is me eating Burger King. That's kind of like the art teacher that told me to go get rallies. He's kind of like that old British dude. This is me and my English teacher after I got kicked out the lunchroom.
You're worthless. You're less than nothing. What's keeping you here? You don't belong here. Why don't you just quit? 'Cause I got no place else to go.
So I went to Noka, bro. It was simple as that, man. So yeah, dude, it was a wild run, man. I had a so again, I you know, difficult times with Texas Trash. But she tells me, because I'll tell her some of these stories, or I might tell a story. It's funny, man. Like through like talking like through man, dude, I might just stop drawing. I might just come and bullshit with y'all in the afternoons, and show you what I'm doing. I that might actually be the answer. But nah, dude. Like, so you know, you do the whole boyfriend girlfriend shit, and you talk about and I miss Texas Trash. If she's watching, she might be. I do miss her. But and I'm a motherfucker to date too. On top of that, but they bullshit at Uncle Tim's cabin, dude. It might be. I like Uncle Tim's cabin, but yeah, man. I'll just be telling her like random stories about like life, dude. I feel like I'm frame mogging now. I feel like I'm getting a little clout back. I would tell her stories, and I mean I got plenty. I don't know. It's just kind of funny, dude. You as I'm 44, on my way to 45. I got a little ways to go. Yeah, dude. I did have some pretty. I'm realizing now through a couple different avenues that I probably did have a pretty interesting and unique life, and probably not what everybody else had, and to the point about like life will take you, God will take you in a certain direction. Those things might have been there to give you that unique perspective, to give you that kind of view that maybe not everybody else is going to have. And I tell you, dude, just telling people, if you're in New Orleans and you tell people you're from Noka, or that you went to Noka in like the right, especially like hoity-toity, like uptown, like David, if you're around like really like rich, like seersucker suit, old money New Orleans people, and you tell them you went to Noka, dude, they'll treat you like you're a little pet. They'll love you. They'll want you to hang out with them. They'll buy you drinks. They will absolutely. I remember being in a hotel, and I'm not going to go into another story, but they adore you. They treat you like one of Lalaurie slaves. Like they want to take you back to the attic with them. They love it, man. So in the right circles, Noka is like royalty in New Orleans. Okay. On that note, pretty insane stream. Thank y'all for showing up. If you have any more questions, save them for tomorrow. And at least y'all got like the origin story, you know, like where it all started, where it came from. And I might even, bust out. I have all my old Noka artwork. I could bust it out. And last thing about Noka, Vernon's daughter Amelia is at Noka now. And it was really cool, dude. He asked me to write her induction letter, or what would you call it? Whatever, the endorsement letter or whatever. So it was really cool. And I was around that little girl ever since she was a little baby. And man, I'm really curious how her story plays out, Amelia. And that's how I signed it, like Noka class of 2000. So, all right. I'm going to let the chickens run around for a little bit, make some red beans.